All right, so the next question you guys might be having is, what am I going to do in this class, right? And my honest answer is, I have no clue. You're all going to different places, and different teachers are going to have you do different things. My hope is we start working in a more collaborative environment. Some of you might be doing some zone defense, where you're walking up and down the rows and just seeing if kids need help. Now, guys, it's helpful, but it's probably not the most helpful you can be. You're pretty underutilized that way. But a lot of teachers, that's how they start off. Hey, go walk around and help out. And you're like, okay, right? And you just kind of wander around. That's great, that's a start. But what we want to start thinking about are ways that we could use you as leaders, right? So maybe what you do is you're in charge of a station, right? Now, this is where we go back to teachers need help. And I'm going to tell you, when I was a teacher, I tried station rotations. And that's where you break your class into 3 different groups. And one class works on the computer, one class maybe works on their homework, and then maybe I sit with a part of the class, and we work on like teaching a new lesson. Now, it went horrible, guys. The first time I ever did that, it went horrible. Like, kids were like stabbing each other with pencils over there. Other kids were pulling up websites that I didn't even know you could pull up on school websites. It was like scary. Like, I thought I was getting fired. So for years, I didn't do station rotation. And as I started getting tutors, it took me a while, and I figured out, like, oh my God, I could have tutors watching the kids on the computers and helping the kids with their homework questions, right? And then I could focus on teaching kids new things, right? That's what we want, is we want to change how we teach. We don't want a teacher just stand up here for 45 minutes and talk and say, okay, help them with their homework for the last 5, right? Another thing some of the teachers are doing here is they're making you group leaders. So just like we're sitting here, maybe I'm your pod leader, so I help you guys out every day. If it's taking notes, I'm making sure you take notes. If it's working on homework or a project or asking questions, and I'm in charge of you guys every day. And then that tutor's in charge of that group, and that tutor's in charge of that group. But we want to make it more collaborative, because what we know are that kids learn better when it's collaborative, when they're thinking through things, when they're questioning. And that doesn't matter if it's English, it doesn't matter if it's social studies or math or science, it doesn't matter. We want to get people talking and thinking, okay? And that's your goal. Now, the question always comes up, right? Well, what do I do if a kid doesn't listen? This is a pyramid scheme, right? Yeah. You guys are in charge of level 1, okay? That's your job. So a kid forgets a pencil, they forget what page they're on, they have a simple question, right? They just need someone to sit next to them and be nice to them. That's your job. My job as a teacher is level 2. I'm in charge of the jerks. And guys, you need to know that you should never have to put up with being put down or called names or anyone being belligerent to you. That is not your job. You might be able to handle it, and that you could be, it's no big deal, but it is not your job. You're there to help others, not to take abuse. That's my job. So it's real simple. If I'm tutoring him and he's being rude and mean and defiant and I'm just done with him, I'm not allowed to flip him off and walk away. But what I can do is I can get up and I can walk to the teacher and go, hey, Mrs. Smith, you need to help Darren right now. And then Mrs. Smith goes, oh yeah, in a few minutes. And you're like, no, Darren needs help right now. You're gonna give Mrs. Smith a cue, right? That this is a problem and it needs to be nipped in the bud right away. And you'll talk to your teacher ahead of time. And then that's the teacher's job. And the truth be told, I know I'm a weird teacher. Those were my favorite kids to work with. Right? I loved it. I have tutors so they can help all those kids, and I can sit down next to this guy. What you doing? How you doing? What you need? You need to do this. You need a pencil. Here's your paper. And I can drive them bonkers for 45 minutes, and I can teach that kid that we are not going to go away. He is not going to get to hide. I'm not going to kick him out of my class. That's what he wants. I'm going to pester him until he does his work. I'm like, oh, you think you're tough? That's adorable, right? You get it? That's my job. I love working with those guys. Let me work with those guys. You take care of everything else for me. But if you're sitting there getting abused left and right, not only is he winning, but then I'm going to lose a tutor because you're just going to go, and walk out. And that's what I don't want. Okay? The other thing is sometimes there's not mean kids, but there's very taxing kids. Some kids just take a lot of energy. Okay? You've dealt with people that are just, after you have a conversation with them, you need a nap because it was exhausting. So that's the other thing, is we got to spread the wealth. If you're working with a kid and you're like, oh my gosh, that was exhausting. Mr. Lyall, can I work with someone else tomorrow? I'll be like, no problem. And the next tutor goes, that was exhausting. Can I work with someone else tomorrow? No problem. But then he goes, oh yeah, it was really good. I'm gonna think, oh, they get along. And I'm gonna give it to him tomorrow. I'm gonna give him the same kid the next day and the next day and the next day until he screams and quits, right? I don't want that. It's not to say that that student is a bad student or a horrible person. It's just maybe they're very stressful, and we want to take turns with that, so we're not getting the same stress every single day. But that only works if you talk to your teacher, right? That was one of the big ideas, right? This only works if you do what? Communicate. That's what we want. It only works if you communicate. Make sense, guys? So your job, level 1. Okay, take care of all the basics. Pencils, simple questions, checking answers, keeping people on task, just being nice to them. Then I finally get to be a teacher. I can deal with hard questions, right? Content questions, hard discipline problems, organizing the whole group. And my job is then to support you. If I'm the classroom teacher, or if you want to come see me as well, we're here to support you, but it only works with communication. Okay, now, the other thing is teachers are going to forget you are not college-educated people with education degrees, okay? They're going to be like, oh my gosh, they couldn't differentiate between these two types of students. I have teachers say to me stuff like that all the time. I'm like, you know they're 15, right? They haven't gone to college to be teachers yet. And they forget that because you guys make such a big difference. So you've got to remind these teachers to get more training, right? For you and them. Hey, could you really help me on this? I feel confused on that. Because they think, oh, I've got 30 kids. I don't have time to help tutors. Well, if they help the tutors, they're helping those 30 kids, right? The better job they do training you, the better job you're going to do with those kids. It's a pyramid scheme. So you guys have to remind those teachers. Remember, they're new. They don't know yet. That, hey, help me out. How can I do this better? What can I work on? Can we try this instead? You follow me? Yeah. Because some of you guys, every one of you guys are at some point going to feel like you're failing, like you're not doing a good job. And I promise you, you are. But having someone in your corner giving you advice and helping you be more successful and teaching you some tricks is going to make you feel even more powerful. And that feeling of failure is going to slip away a lot quicker. Okay? All right. So, how are you going to treat kids? This only works if you
communicate.
Who deals with the level 2 jerks?
Teacher.
And if we have a stressful kid, we all do what?
Switch.
Yeah, we rotate. We share the wealth. Okay? Any questions?
No, sir.
All right. Coming up is the most fun ever. It's my favorite thing to do. All right.